Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Remnant Christian Book Reading. Welcome back. Little announcement. Kind of got a new camera, so now I don't look like I'm being recorded on a potato. With that being said, hopefully everything is coming out good. Please leave it in the comments if it looks better or if it looks worse. Just let me know. And I think that's about it. So we're gonna get right into it. We're on Elijah Project, chapter 2, On the Run. Let's jump right into it. Mom furiously threw clothes into each of her 3 children's suitcases. They'd been discovered, found out, and in a matter of time, they'd be taken. No, not all of them. Just one. Just Elijah. She heard car tires screech outside. She raced to the bedroom window to see a strange trio leap out of a green van and start down the sidewalk. First, there was a red-headed woman. Somehow, she had learned the delicate art of stomping in high heels. Behind her was a giant of a man. And last but not least, was a short, skinny man with a long, pointed nose, who was carrying a gun. "Honey!" she shouted. Excuse me. "Honey!" her husband shouted as he raced up the stairs. "I see them," she called. He entered the room. "We'll have to draw them off." "As decoys?" He nodded. "I'll leave a note. The kids can meet up with us tonight." "Oh, Mike." Once again, tears filled her eyes. "It's the only way, sweetheart." His own voice thickening with emotion. "For now, it's all we can do." Monica sent Bruno to the back of the house while she and Silas knocked at the door. There was no answer. She knocked harder. Still no answer. She turned to Silas. "You may have to break in." Silas squirmed. "I'm not the break the door kind of guy. That's Bruno's department." Suddenly he brightened. "But I'll be happy to shoot off the lock if you want." Monica gave him a look. It's not that Silas was a gun nut. He just had this thing about blowing things up and asking questions later. The worst was the time Bruno brought home a battery-operated puppy for Monica's birthday. It really actually wasn't her birthday, but it was the thought that counted. Actually, in Bruno's case, it was the thoughts. Either since thoughts were not exactly something he specialized in. Anyway, once Monica rejected the gift, she always rejected Bruno's gifts, Bruno pretended it was his birthday. After a rousing chorus of "Happy birthday to me," he unwrapped the toy. "Oh, what a wonderful surprise!" he shouted. Next came the hard part, figuring out how to put the batteries in. Once he accomplished that, Bruno turned on the toy and let it loose on the floor. Immediately, the mechanical puppy began prancing around and barking. Silas, who was trying to watch a baseball game on TV, wasn't impressed. "Will you turn that thing off?" he demanded. "I'm watching the game." "Oh, sorry," Bruno said. But before he could turn it off, he had to catch it. And since the only thing worse than Bruno's brain function was his coordination, he was never quite able to grab hold of the crafty little toy. "Turn it off!" Silas shouted. I'm trying, Bruno said. Finally, Silas saved him the effort. The first shot sent the mechanical puppy into the air. The second blew its little head off. The third turned it into a pile of gears, fake fur, and a warranty label they somehow suspected was no longer valid. Yes, Silas definitely had a thing about blowing stuff up. Back at the house, the garage door behind them began to rise. Monica spun around to see a blue Jeep Cherokee backing out. "They're trying to get away!" she cried. The gang took off for the garage but were too slow. The car barreled backward down the driveway and onto the road, where it skidded to a stop. Then with tires squealing, it peeled out and zoomed up the street. Get him! Monica screamed as she turned for their van. Unfortunately, Silas didn't turn as quickly as she did, which meant he crashed into her and fell onto the driveway, where they got tangled up together. After flopping around a bit, Silas finally pulled his foot out of her purse, and she pulled her arm out of his shirt. At last, they scrambled to their feet and raced for the van. Don't let them get away! As they headed home from school, Zach was his usual irritating self. So, you're a big TV star now, he teased his sister. What? Piper asked. A couple kids saw it at lunch. You and Elijah were all over the news. Great, Piper sighed. Mom and Dad aren't going to like that. Zach nodded. It's not exactly the low profile they wanted us to keep. Piper threw a look over her shoulder to Elijah, who was his usual 50 steps behind. This time he'd been stopped by 3 older kids. Hey, it's Miracle Boy, one of them taunted. Yeah, another said. How about doing a trick for us, freako? Without thinking, Piper launched into her attack mode. It made no difference that there were 3 of them and 1 of her, or that their backs were to her, so she didn't know how tough they were. The point is, they were going after Elijah, so she was going after them. Leave him alone! She shouted. She grabbed the nearest kid who had just arrived. She spun him around only to see that it was Cody. Hey, Piper. She swallowed, then croaked. Leave my brother alone. Right, I was just... You heard me! I know, that's what I was telling... I don't care how gorgeous you think you are! You don't mess with my brother! She pulled up her sleeves and glared at the other 2 boys like she was ready for a fight. They exchanged nervous glances as if they were dealing with a crazy person. That goes for you too! Now wanting to tangle, particularly with a crazy person, they backed away. Then they turned and sauntered off. They fired off the expected insults, but Piper didn't care. She made her point. No one messed with her little brother. It was about this time that she noticed Elijah tugging on her sleeve. She turned to him. What? He pointed to Cody and shook his head. What? She repeated. Cody coughed slightly and explained. I think he's telling you I was trying to help. What? She looked at Cody, then back to Elijah, who nodded broadly. Those 2 goons were giving him a rough time. So I came over to... Hey, Cody. Zach strolled up to them. I see Holster and Larson were trying to be tough guys again. Yeah, Cody agreed. They'll never learn. Zach nodded. Looks like you scared them off. Actually, I think Piper did most of the scaring. All 3 turned to Piper, whose ears were suddenly burning red hot. You were trying to help? She stammered. I thought... Yeah, I figured, Cody said. He flashed her that killer grin. Piper tried to answer, but it's pretty hard talking with your jaw hanging open. Cody cranked up his grin even brighter. Don't sweat it. Truth is, I like people who stand up for others. A lot. Piper may have nodded. She wasn't sure. All she knew was that her mouth was still hanging open, and she was praying there was no drool. Maybe I can call you sometime? He asked. I mean, if you don't mind. If her jaw was hanging open before, now it was dragging on the ground. Piper? She tried moving her mouth, but nothing happened. Again, he spoke. Piper? Uh-huh. She heard herself croak. If I'm going to call you, I'll need your cell number. Uh-huh. He paused, waiting. Was it her imagination, or was his friendly smile turning to a look of pity? At last, Zach came to her rescue. It's 484-1601. Right, Pipe? Uh-huh. Great. Cody grabbed a pen and wrote on the back of his hand. Thanks for helping out, Zach said. With Elijah, I mean. No problem, Cody answered as he turned and started up the sidewalk. Pepper wasn't sure how long she stood there. All she remembered was Zach putting his arm around her shoulder and easing her into the direction of their house. Come along now, he said gently. Everything will be all right. Mom and Dad sped down the entrance ramp and merged onto the freeway. The green van was close behind and getting closer by the second. They're closing in, Dad said, looking at the rearview mirror. Can we outrun them? Mom asked. I doubt it, but we can stay ahead of them long enough for the kids to see the note and get away. What's happened? Piper said as they stood in the middle of the kitchen. The vacuum cleaner was out, unwashed dishes sat in the sink, and the floor was covered with clothes from the dryer. Looks like they were in a hurry, Zach said as he opened the fridge to get some milk. Thank you. TV news! They also left the garage door open. Grabbing a dirty glass from the sink, Zach asked, You don't think anything serious could have happened, do you? Piper cringed as he poured the milk into the filthy glass. He looked at her. What? She started to explain, then stopped. With Zach, it would do no good. Elijah spotted a note on the counter. Silently, he scooped it up and handed it to Piper. What's that? Zach asked between gulps. It's from Mom and Dad, Piper said. She began reading. No time to explain. Meet us at Aunt Myrna's tonight. Take everything you need in case we can't come back. Zach stopped drinking. Can't come back? Oh no, Pepper groaned. It's happening again, isn't it? Zach frowned. Maybe. But Aunt Myrna's all the way in Pasadena. We don't even know her address. Piper tapped the note. It's right here. Anything else? Just a Bible verse. Since they were kids, Mom and Dad always ended their notes with a verse from the Bible. Zach finished the milk and belched. Which one? Piper read the verse. Lo, I am with you always. Matthew 28, verse 20. That's it? Zach asked. Almost. Piper swallowed. There's one last word. Which is? Hurry! Monica Spector squinted through the dirty windshield as Silas drew closer to the Jeep. I don't see no kids in there, Bruno called from the back seat. Neither do I, Silas said, turning to Monica. He asked, Should I force them off the road? Silas liked crashing into cars as much as he liked blowing up battery-operated puppies. Unfortunately, Monica had a better idea. Unfortunately, because the last thing in the world she wanted to do was put a call in to her boss. He was creepy. And not as in a little weird. He was creepy. As in a lot weird. Maybe it was his voice. The way it sort of slithered around your mind and hissed into your ears. Slithered and hissed the way rattlesnakes do. Or maybe it was his tremendous size. He wasn't a little overweight. He was really overweight. Picture Jabba the Hutt from Star Wars. Yeah, that was pretty close to his size. Actually, neither his voice nor his weight was a problem compared to his face. The reason? She never saw it. Well, it was there and everything, stuck on top of his neck like everyone else's, but she could never quite make it out. It always seemed to lurk and hide in the shadows. Even in the brightest light, she still couldn't see his face. But despite all these reasons, she didn't want to call. She knew the time had come. Whether she liked it or not, she knew what she had to do. Monica took a deep breath, reached into her purse for her cell phone, and began to dial. The office was black. Not black as in dark with no lights, but black as in all black. Black carpet, black desk, black phones, Even the pens and paper clips were black. The phone rang only once before a shadowy form reached over and picked it up. Yes, it hissed in a strange, quivering voice. Got them in sight, sir, Monica said over the phone. But I'm not sure the kid is with them. What? The dark form demanded. We're coming up on Lancashire Boulevard. Should we force them off the road? Leave that to me. I shall contact others. But just find the boy. Yes, sir, Monica said. Without another word, the shadowy creature slammed down the phone. They're peeling off, Dad called as he looked through the mirror. Mom turned to see the green van taking the exit ramp behind them. Do you think they've given up? She asked. He said nothing, and she turned to him. The weary expression on his face said more than she wanted to know. They drove in silence through the traffic. 5-10 minutes, lost in their own thoughts, recalling the memories of how time and time again they had to pull up the stakes and leave. In the early days, they'd tried going to the police, but what could they tell them? That their son had been born with strange gifts? That there was an organization connected to a dark, sinister force that would stop at nothing to get their hands on him? Not exactly the type of thing police would believe. Dad slowed the Jeep, and Mom looked up as they came to a stop. What's wrong? She asked. Looks like an accident ahead. An overturned truck or something. She nodded and returned to her thoughts. Even before he was born, she knew Elijah was different. To this day, she remembered the crazy man on the street who stopped her when she was pregnant. The one who started telling her all the things her baby would do and how he was even mentioned in the Bible. And there was the banging on the Jeep window jarred Mom from her thoughts. She spun around to see a good-looking man in a suit. He motioned for her to roll down the window. Throwing a look to Dad, who nodded, she reached for the button and rolled it down. Hello there! Excuse me, I can't really do this, but I'm gonna just try my best. I'm just gonna do it in regular. I can't do very good accents, sorry. Hello there, he said in a thick Australian accent. I can't do the accent, like I said, so forgive me. Leave everything and walk away with me. We've got a car waiting on the other side of the freeway. Who are you? Dad demanded. Oh, I think you know who we are, mate. Now come on. You can't just grab us in the middle of traffic. You'll be coming with me. That is, if you want to see your children alive again. Mom froze. Our children? What have you done with the children? There's only one way to find out. He turned and walked from the car. Mom twirled to her husband. What do we do? She frowned. Maybe it's a bluff, she said. Maybe the kids are safe. Maybe. Dad let out a heavy sigh. But is that a risk we're willing to take? She shook at him a moment, then shook her head. Or she looked at him a moment, then shook her head, excuse me. Then they both reached for the door handles and climbed out of the car. Elijah! Piper looked down into her little brother's suitcase. You can't take all this stuff. The lid won't close. He crossed his arms and scowled. Sorry, buddy. She began pulling things out. First went the photos. Not just those from his room, but also from the hallway, the mantel next to his mom's bed, and on Dad's dresser. Did you pack any clothes? She asked. He scowled harder and pointed at the shirt, pants, and shoes he was wearing. You have to pack more than those. He lifted up his shirt to show his underwear. Piper smiled and reached back into the suitcase. The next thing she pulled out was a heavy book, the family Bible. He loved that thing. Even though he couldn't read, he'd stare at the printed pages for hours. He especially liked the last section, the Book of Revelation. Piper continued to dig. This was their fourth move in 6 years, and like the others, it was always last minute with no explanation. When they tried to get their parents to tell them why, the answer was always the same. When you're older, we'll explain. Right now, the less you know, the better it'll be. Pepper blew her hair out of her eyes. It wasn't anything illegal, she knew that. The family always went out of their way to do the right thing. So, what could it be? She looked back into Elijah's suitcase and pulled out Zach's baseball card collection. Next, she felt fur and pulled out her koala bear, the one she slept with since she was a baby. She'd wanted to pack it in her own suitcase, but she didn't have any room. "Oh, Eli," she said softly. "That's so sweet. But you have to pack something for your..." She was interrupted by Zach shouting from downstairs. "Looks like we got company!" She moved to the window with Elijah. Sure enough, a green van had pulled up and the door was sliding open. The first person to step out was a skinny man with a funny nose and a gun. That was all Piper needed to see. "Come on, Eli," she whispered. "Let's get out of here." "The back door," Zach called. "Let's sneak out and head across Old Lady Hagen's yard. Or Hagen's yard, excuse me." Monica was surprised to see the front door unlocked. Instead of breaking it down or allowing Silas to shoot it, she simply pushed it open, and they walked inside. She turned to the men. "Bruno, check the back door. Silas, look upstairs." They nodded and went to work, just as Monica's cell phone rang. She flipped it open and answered. "Hello?" "We have the parents," the voice hissed through the phone. "You were correct. The children are not with them." Monica nodded as she moved through the kitchen. "It doesn't look like they're here either." "Have you lost them?" the voice hissed, sounding even darker than before. Monica spotted a note on the counter and silently read it. "No time to explain. Meet us at Aunt Myrna's tonight. Take everything you need in case we can't come back. Lo, I'm with you always. Matthew 28:20. At the bottom was an address. "No, sir, I haven't lost them." Monica's thin lips curled into what was a cross between a snarl and a smile. "In fact, I know right where they're going." Oof! That was chapter 2. Ah, that was pretty cool. What'd you think about that creepy dude? I think it's kind of interesting. I actually kind of like doing his voice, but that's besides the point. The chapter itself was pretty awesome. So, we're on chapter 3. This is going to be the last chapter I do for this video. If you like this reading so far, go ahead and give it a like. And maybe if you want to, subscribe and maybe you can see more of the book. Chapter 3. A Close Call. Zach lugged Eli's suitcase and his own down the sidewalk. Pepper pulled hers on a little attached wheels. When she picked it out with Mom, she'd known the wheels were a good, efficient feature. Pepper had a thing about being efficient. "I wish Dad would have left us some money for a cab," she said with a sigh. "The bus will take forever." "Actually," Zach explained, "he probably figured we had enough." "Why's that?" "He gave me a bunch of money for football equipment and stuff, but Zach came to a stop. Pepper turned to him. "But you what?" "But well, he fumbled, looking for a way out. Finally, he shrugged. "Alright, so I bought a lunch for a few of my friends. Big deal." "You bought lunch for a few of your friends?" "Alright, for a lot of my friends," Piper groaned. "Zach, don't sweat it." He reached into his left pocket. "We still almost got $3 left." "Great! We'll walk 1,000 miles to the bus stop, then ride the smelly thing all the way across town just so you could be a BMOC. "Big man on campus?" Zach asked. Piper shook her head. Big moron on campus." Elijah began tugging on Zach's sleeve. "What is it, little buddy?" Elijah pointed at a sign that read hospital, with an arrow pointing down the street. "You want to go to the hospital?" Zach said. "Are you feeling sick?" Piper asked in sudden concern. Elijah shook his head. Sorry, pal, Zach said. No field trips today. We've got to keep moving. Hey, there's the bus now. Yeah, Piper agreed. I can smell it from here. Piper didn't dislike riding buses, per se. It was more like a deep hatred. A powerful loathing, in short. She despised it with every bone in her body. It wasn't just the smelly exhaust, the sticky seats, or the sweet old ladies that always wound up sitting next to her and talking her ears off. The loathing went deeper, and had started a long time ago, when she was 7, to be exact. That was when little Billy Hutton thought it would be great fun to sit behind her on the school bus and play Flick the Girl's Ears. Yes, sir, lots of fun, at least for the first couple days. But after a week or so, it got a little boring and painful. So after asking him to stop for the 100th time, and complaining to the bus driver for the 101st time, little Piper took matters into her own hands. Translation? She leapt over the seat and beat the tar out of him. Billy didn't laugh much after that. It's too embarrassing to laugh when you've been beaten up by a girl. Even more embarrassing to laugh when you no longer have front teeth because of it. Of course, Mom and Dad weren't fond of paying for the dental bills, and Piper was even less fond of them taking it out of her allowance for the next 1,000 years. But Billy never showed interest in her again. Unfortunately, neither did any of the other boys. Ever. Monica sat in the passenger seat of the green van looking for any sign of the kids. They can't be too far, she rumbled. They're on foot. Silas nodded from behind the wheel and turned the van up another street. A block later, they came to a stoplight. There they are! Bruno shouted from the back seat. Where? Monica demanded. Across the street at the bus stop. Great, Silas grinned. And there's the bus, Monica pointed. Silas looked up the street and saw the approaching bus. It was half a block away. No problem, he said. We've got plenty of time to get over there and grab them before it gets here. The light changed and he started to make a U-turn to cross the street when suddenly a homeless man appeared in front of them. Silas slammed on the brakes. Hey! The man didn't move. Silas blasted the horn. Hey! The homeless man looked up and smiled. Silas blew the horn again. Get out of the way! The man raised a hand to his ear as if he couldn't hear. The bus is coming! Monica yelled. Come on, pal! Silas shouted, motioning for him to move. Hurry! Monica cried. What can I do? He hit the horn again. The bus entered the intersection and pulled to a stop in front of the kids. They're getting on! Monica yelled. Silas continued honking. The man continued smiling. Run over him! She shrieked. With a belch of black smoke, the bus began to pull off. They're getting away! Monica banged on the dashboard. They're getting away! Silas turned back to the homeless man, only to discover he was no longer there. Where'd he go? Who cares? Monica screamed. Follow that bus! Silas resumed the U-turn, only to have another car pull out in front of him. Again he slammed on the brakes, and again he blasted the horn. But the car wouldn't move. Actually, it couldn't move. The homeless man had now crossed the street and now blocked the traffic coming from the opposite direction. Unbelievable, Silas said with a sigh as he watched the bus head down off the road. Now, what are we gonna do? Bruno called from the back seat. We'll meet them at their aunt's, Monica said. She pulled out the note she picked up from the counter. If we can't grab them here, we'll grab them there. Silas nodded. When the traffic finally cleared, he hit the gas, drove like a madman to make sure they'd arrive before the kids. 30 minutes later, they pulled up in the front of the aunt's house. "You guys wait here," Monica said as she opened the van door.
Don't you want us to go with you?
Silas asked. "Yeah, you might need, like, a protector or something," Bruno said. Monica looked at him for a long moment. For weeks, she figured Bruno had been getting a crush on her. And by now, by the way he tried to suck in his gut grin and smooth down his hair all at the same time, she was sure of it. Finally, she spoke. "I don't want any trouble here." "Gotcha," Bruno grinned. Both he and Silas reached for the doors. "No, listen to me," Monica said. First, she pointed at Silas. "Too creepy looking." Then she pointed at Bruno. "Too stupid." They both stared. "Understand?" The big guy looked down and nodded. He seemed to wilt before her very eyes. She continued. "Just wait here for me." Neither answered. With a heavy sigh, she stepped out of the van and closed the door behind her. Quickly, she hurried up the walk. As she arrived at the door, she took a compact from her purse and checked her face in the mirror. She tried smiling to soften her hardness, but no matter how she smiled, her face always looked as strained as a tortoise with a migraine. She finally gave up and rang the bell. A kind, older woman with silver hair opened the door. "Yes?" Monica tried her best to look pleasant. "Are you Myrna?" she asked, suddenly realizing she didn't know Aunt Myrna's last name. But Myrna saved her. "Dawkins, yes I am." Monica tried smiling again. Her attempt to smile caused her physical pain. "I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but your brother's family was in a car accident up north. They're at Bellevue Hospital in Ventura." "Oh no!" Aunt Myrna cried. "Are they all right?" "It's too early to tell. I'm a friend of your sister-in-law. She wanted me to ask you to come to the hospital right away." Aunt Myrna nodded. Thank you, thank you." She turned and called up the stairs to her husband. "Tom, we've got to go to Ventura right now. Mike's family has been in an accident." Thanking Monica once again, she shut the door. Monica sneered as she headed back to the van.
Any luck?
Silas called from the window. She nodded and climbed inside. "Park down the block in a place where we can watch the house without being spotted." Silas dropped the car into gear, but as they pulled away, Bruno let out a forlorn sigh with a couple sniffles. Monica turned and asked, "What's the matter with you?" Silas explained.
He's upset because you said he was stupid.
Monica turned back to Bruno and said in her most comforting and understanding voice, "Bruno, dear, dear Bruno." He looked up hopefully. "Yes?" he answered between sniffles. "Knock it off." After 3 bus transfers and more than a little complaining from Piper, the kids finally approached their destination. Or so they hoped. "You sure you remember how to get there?" Piper asked Zach for the 100th time. And for the 100th time, Zach sighed. "Oh, sure, I'm sure. Their house is just down the street from that park." "Which park is that?" Zach shrugged. "You know, the park." Piper looked at him. "What?" he asked. "Can I see the note, please?" "What note?" "The one with the address?" "Oh, that note." Zach reached into his shirt pocket, but only found a flyer for a concert at our local coffee house. He checked his back pocket. It was his history assignment. He checked his left pocket and found 2 $1 bills and 40 cents in change. Piper looked at him in disbelief. He tried his right pocket and found 2 pieces of gum and a half eraser. Piper rolled her eyes. "What?" he repeated. "You lost the note." "What do I need a stupid note for? Her place is on Jasmine Drive, just down from the park." "Which park?" she repeated. "How should I know? I mean, How many parks can there be in the city? Just then the bus slowed as the driver called out, Rutherford Park, next stop, Cantrell Park, followed by Gelford Park. And if looks could kill, Zack would be making funeral arrangements for himself. Suddenly Elijah leaped to his feet and pointed out the window toward a large statue of a horse. This is it! Zack cried. The park with the horse. Are you sure? Sure, I'm sure! Seconds later, all three piled out of the bus and headed down the street toward Aunt Myrna's. I'm starved, Zack said. I hope she's got dinner for us. Piper gave another one of her world's famous sighs. I'd just settle for a hug. Do you think we'll go back home tonight? Zack shrugged. I doubt it. Remember the last time we had to move? How could I forget? It was in the middle of the night. Yeah, Zack said. We had to keep the TV on so people would think we were still there watching it. And you wanted it to be on some football game. Well, it was better than your America's Top whatever it was. It was the middle of spring, Zack. They don't play football in the spring. Details, details. Piper gave up on sighing and tried one of her world-famous eye rolls. She still remembered that night vividly. Once they had decided on the TV show, an old CSI rerun, they had to push the car out of the garage without turning on the lights or the engine. It was supposed to be so no one would hear them leaving. And for the most part, they were pretty successful. Except for the part where Zack pushed the car by holding on to the steering wheel. Actually, that wasn't the problem. It was the horn on the steering wheel. The horn he accidentally pressed again and again and again. Some more. The horn that managed to wake up the entire neighborhood and all their dogs. So much for silence. Maybe that's why this time Mom and Dad decided to leave without their help. Anyway, Zack said, bringing her back to the present. I'm betting it's the same thing now. You know, them having to leave at the last minute. Why won't they ever tell us what's happening? Piper complained. He gave another shrug. You know what they say. We're better off not knowing. At least for now. She nodded and looked back to Elijah. She knew there was a connection between their sudden moves and her little brother. But what? Suddenly her cell phone, which Zack had programmed for her, rang to the tune of If I Only Had a Brain from The Wizard of Oz. She pulled the phone from her pocket and checked the caller ID. It was a number she didn't recognize. She flipped it open and answered it anxiously. Hello? Hey, it's Cody. A voice on the other side replied. Piper's heart sank and swelled at the same time. Hi, she stammered. So, what are you up to? He asked. She swallowed nervously, but the last thing she wanted to do was cut him off, but she didn't have much choice. Listen, Cody, now's not such a good time. We're kind of busy and... Where are you? He asked. I dropped by your place, but nobody was home. Yeah, we're on our way to my aunt's in Pasadena. We took the bus. The bus? Cody exclaimed. All the way out there? Where are your folks? Zack pointed across the street. There's the house. Listen, Cody. Just saying his name made her mouth dry. I'm sorry, but I really gotta go. I'll talk to you later. Yeah, sure, but... Piper cringed as she closed her phone on him. Where's Dad's car? Zack asked. Maybe... She cleared her throat. Maybe he went to get pizza? We always have pizza when we come here. They moved across the street and up to the front door. Zack knocked and waited. Piper blew the hair from her eyes and reached over to ring the bell. A moment later, the door swung open. The woman standing before them was in her 30s, with long, red hair and a strangely forced smile. Hello. You must be Mike and Judy's children. Zack and Piper exchanged looks. I'm Elaine, a house guest of your Aunt Myrna's. They went to pick up some dinner. She opened the door wider. Won't you come in? They'll be back any time. And that is the end of chapter 3. Okay, that was a pretty interesting ending. I hope you guys all liked it and you've been liking me try to do different voices. It's kind of hard because my normal voice is like this, and then when I try to do a girl voice, I try to do it like this, and it's not easy. But anyway, that's besides the point. I hope you guys are enjoying the book. Get ready for next time where it's chapter 4. Should be good. I think chapter 4, let me see here, is called, chapter 4 is actually called Extra Sausage. I don't know what that means, but extra sausage. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. God bless you. And remember that Jesus loves you. Bye.